Hello.
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 Hello, Councillor Hogan.
Hello, Hogan.
Hi, Gary. Hi, Margaret.
How are you?
And have we
Good,
got
thanks.
have we got
How are
Elaine?
you all?
Do you want to put your videos on so we can see you?
We can see.
Oh, I've got a
Across.
view. So it's my view. Okay, don't mind me. I've got it sorted now. So Margaret is my name, and I'm facilitating tonight. So so it's Gillian and sorry, who's on Elaine?
Elaine is really Ray Hislop.
Can't hear you very well.
Elaine is really Ray Hislop.
Okay, great. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, we just wanted people sort of to get in early so that we could make sure that people could see and hear, and we'll wait a few more minutes for a few more.
Well, I certainly put it around today, so hopefully, but people are having trouble downloading the actual Zoom app.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, which is a shame. I had quite a number of calls on that one. I think they've got Windows 10 or something.
You can access it from a browser if you're accessing from a computer, but if they're on a phone, it makes it, or a tablet, it makes it a little bit tricky because you've got to download the app.
Okay, I might just text one of them to tell them that.
Hello, welcome.
Good afternoon, good evening, sorry. Lynn
Yeah.
Axton, Academy Rate Progress, hello.
You're Lynn, are you?
Lynn, that's right, Lynn Axton.
Great.
I didn't have to use the number to get in, that was interesting.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, if you go in directly through and you've got it already downloaded, it's pretty easy. It's just if you're
Okay. Are you able to see me okay?
Yeah, no, all good, all good.
Okay. Fine.
Hello, Lynn.
Hello, Jill, how are you?
Thanks. Hello, Ray.
Hi, Julie.
So we'll wait just a little time before we start.
Okay.
So we've
Well
got
done, Lynn. You did it.
Somebody on 138302. Who is that?
138302, that's me.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're doing audio as well as, yep, sorry.
Okay.
That's right.
Who is it? Is that you, Lynn?
Yes,
Yeah.
me.
So it's because
Oh, you're here twice then, because I've got I can see you, Lynn.
no, but it's connecting via video. Some people
Ah.
have to do different.
Yeah, I used
So
this went straight.
it's not your jail number, Lynn.
No, darling, it's not. It's not something that they actually sent me, but they didn't. I just went straight through to Zoom. I didn't have to sign in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've just sent through a message in the chat box. So if you want to open up the chat box, that will be really helpful for us as we move through the presentation.
Thank you, Rose. Forgot about that. That's right.
That's
So
okay.
so just to make sure you're familiar with where the chat box is, and because what we're going to do is, at least for the first part, we'll take questions in the chat box, and then on the initiative areas we'll probably open it up for a bit of discussion, but we'll use the chat box to sort of collect up the questions and make that part quick.
Okay.
Does everyone see the chat box?
Yes, got it.
Everyone can find it?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. Ray, you can find it?
No, whereabouts is it?
Oh, okay. So if you go up the top, oh no, it might be a different view on my screen. Emma, can you explain?
Yeah, so it should be at the bottom of your screen in the middle. And you probably have a little red number 1 showing you've got a message.
Oh, yes, I can see it down the bottom.
Beautiful.
So if you just click on that and open it up, you'll be able to see that. And it's probably worth keeping that chat box open because then you'll be able to see, and yeah, people, you know, might want to make comments or questions as we go using that.
So that number we had previously is now turned to Meredith.
Oh, Meredith.
I think that's an additional person maybe.
I don't have the number. That's Sue coming in.
Oh, Sue Wynn. Hi, Sue. Got around.
And Meredith, can you hear us okay?
Well, Meredith's now got her mute button off.
Meredith, can you hear us? Sue, can you hear us? You can see, you can hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hey, Sue.
Hello, how are you? Hello, Lynn.
Hello, Sue. How are you?
Very well.
That's good.
So we probably will get people to mute sort of through the presentation, but we'll certainly open up for discussion later.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering whether we shouldn't just start because we're 5 minutes past 6. So Margaret Harvey is my name, and I'm facilitating this evening. So I'd like to just start by acknowledging that wherever we might sit right now, we're on Aboriginal land, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. This is not the most ideal situation to be in, and of course, if we hadn't been in this COVID-19 situation, we would be in Budgewoi now, meeting face to face as a group. So, what we're trying to do this evening is, as much as possible, simulate that experience. It's not the same as being in the same room, but we want to give the same opportunities. And as you know, this is also being recorded, and so others can also see it. So the purpose of these forums, and I guess this is important to not sort of increase expectations beyond what it is. It really is to give you some clear understanding of the context of the LSPS, or the local strategic planning statements, and what that document includes. It's to allow you to ask questions. And of course, it's allowed to give you the opportunity to provide your views on what's important around the local strategic planning statements. But the key thing is that what we hope out of this is that we give you information so that you're equipped to make a very solid submission to council around this planning process. The way in which we're going to run this evening is that 3 of the planners, Gary, Malati and Rhiannon, are going to provide a presentation on the content, and then we're going to have a bit of a time for questions through the chat box. Then we've got a poll, and we're going to get people to identify what the priority areas are of those initiatives through a poll, and then we're going to have a discussion around the key sort of areas that come out of that, and I guess focusing in on the issues and matters as they relate to Budgewoi. And then we're going to talk about the next steps for the LSPS. So what I need to warn you is that this is a live forum. It is being recorded and will be uploaded to Council's webpage. By speaking at this forum, you are giving your consent to your image and your voice being broadcast to the world. Recordings are copyright protected and are accessible under Government Information Public Access Act, so they may be able to be used in proceedings outside of Council. Council accepts no liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that may be made. Now, this process, while it is being recorded, it's important that you understand it is not part of the formal submission process. So you do need to make a formal submission to the LSPS. You can't just say, well, I said it at the forum and therefore it should have been included. Who we have, we've got Councillor Gillian Hogan, and thank you for coming, Gillian. That's great to have you here. Talking to us today, we've got Gary Hamer, Malati Lai, Rhiannon Rush, and then also present we have Rose Brown-Mason, and Margaret Harvey is my name, and I'm the facilitator for this session from an independent consulting company, Plancom Consulting, and my colleague is Emma Scatella, and she's a nice looking one, and she's here to sort of do some of the technology support so that we get people muted when they should be, when their dogs are barking, and all those sorts of things. So this forum etiquette, you're probably quite familiar with that. We will be muting people through most of the session, but you know, you're free to unmute you know, at any time. And we will, as I say, be using the chat function. We've got a small group tonight, so that's great, because that obviously means that probably there's more chance for us to have time for discussion. But I will, as much as possible, be trying to get everyone to have a say. So if I cut you off, it'll be mostly because I want to make sure that we hear from as many people as we can through the evening. And with that, I am going to hand over to Gary, who's going to take us through what the statements are about. And then just to remind you that Mel and Rhiannon are coming on, and they're going to be talking about the initiative areas. And then at the end of that, we're going to be doing a poll around those initiative areas. So when we're going through those 11 areas, you might just have a think about and maybe note down what are the most important ones from your perspective for the Budgewoi area. Have I forgotten anything, guys, in that?
No, I think that's it.
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds great. Okay, thanks so much, Margaret, and welcome everyone to this evening. I hope it's firstly an enjoyable, but also a very informative evening for everyone involved. I just think I might take this time also just in recognition of Reconciliation Week. I also too like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the various lands in which we all meet today. Okay, moving on. In terms of the LSPS, so firstly, I think it's important to know, well, what actually is an LSPS? So firstly, the strategic planning statement, it's a tool, it's a strategic tool that provides us with the ability to plan for the future over the next 20 years. So as this slide's got up here, some information that clearly articulates what the intent of this local strategic planning statement is. It's not a stationary or stagnant document, and this is really important, is that as it alludes there on the slide, that provides for a feedback cycle about regional and local planning. And I think we all appreciate that through changes in legislation, through changes in trends, etc., things constantly change. So it's important this document becomes dynamic and that it's regularly updated. So the document here is the reason, well, why are we doing this in the first place? Well, the reason why we're doing it is quite clear that there's actually a legal requirement. So Central Coast Council, like all councils in the state of New South Wales, we are bound by legislation to undertake to do a local strategic planning statement. So if you look on some other council websites, you might see that the city regional councils have already completed a lot of their LSPSs, and many of the regional councils are in this process of putting either theirs on exhibition or developing their plan. Thanks, Margaret. Next slide, please. Okay, so what goes into an LSPS? So this slide here really identifies to you the 4 key components of the LSPS. We're quite challenged in that we've got a huge regional council, very large area, and also that it's quite a large document. So we do appreciate that up front, that there's a lot of information in our LSPS because we are a very big council with over 330,000 people in a very complex environment. So firstly is that we need to set a higher level 20-year vision. So what do we believe the vision is moving forward for the Central Coast region. And this information has come about from the Community Strategic Plan. So it's really important to understand that the LSPS is our land use response to our Community Strategic Plan. I think that's one of the most important things I can get across to people tonight. But also draws upon information from the Central Coast Regional Plan to look at helping us guide our environmental, social and economic aspirations for the community. Secondly, through our Community Strategic Plan, that we identify planning priorities, which we will be talking about later on tonight. Our actions, that's getting down to a little bit more the technical component, and it clearly articulates in the LSPS what are the actions, the planning actions we're going to undertake to help us achieve our vision. And then the last one there is about implementation. I think this is really important too. People often talk about when strategic plans get done, they sit on the shelf and they get cobwebs and they're not implemented. The most important component driving the LSPS2 is that the implementation of the priorities and actions. And that would include more regular reporting of how we're up to. This slide here has two components to it. On the left-hand side, we're just trying to demonstrate on a very high level, where does this plan sit in relation to other documents that impact on us? So firstly, we have an overarching state government document called the Central Coast Regional Plan. And then we have, as we all know, that we've only recently developed our Community Strategic Plan, our One Central Coast. And then sitting alongside that is the Local Strategic Planning Statement. In terms of on the right-hand side, we have what we've identified, what we believe our strategic vision is for the Central Coast as a whole. This was quite challenging in that because we had to come up with one statement that tried to embody the whole Central Coast. So it was quite a challenging task. I am going to read it because I think it's important for us to understand what the context says. So the Central Coast of tomorrow will show leadership in placemaking, environmental protection, sustainability, infrastructure, and community resilience. Gosford City Centre will become the capital of the Central Coast, providing regional level facilities and a positive local identity. Our other centres will thrive with more living and working opportunities, providing key services to surrounding communities. Importantly, our communities will be physically connected through appropriate infrastructure and socially connected through a strong relationship and a sense of unity. So we've tried to get a vision statement that embodies what the themes say. The next slide here talks about the relationship between those key themes in the CSP, which are on the left-hand side. So we have belonging, smart, green, responsible, and livable. And then in the local strategic planning statement, we have 4 pillars. So the 4 pillars that we see there are related to place, environment, lifestyle, and infrastructure. And what this slide is trying to show is how do the themes of the CSP relate to the 4 planning pillars. And throughout the document, you'll see these little colour codings where we try to demonstrate how we're meeting the themes through the CSP. Next slide, please. Okay. This slide here goes into a little bit more detail about the structure of the document, a bit more visually, in terms of when you read through the document, the front end of the document will give you a direction for growth. We've got a statement here where we're saying, well, we are going to grow, but within our existing and future planned infrastructure and what our services capacity is there. As I mentioned before, can we just go back to...
Sorry, I was trying to get...
jump in there, going past there. So our planning pillars are based on place, environment, lifestyle, and infrastructure, and trying to show the interrelationship between those 4 pillars. As mentioned before, Margaret said about our key initiatives, and that's going to be a key focus of tonight's discussion about why they're important and where they sit in the context of the Budgewoi ward. We then also will be demonstrating some of the priorities within each of the key initiatives. And as you could expect, this is very challenging because it's such a big region and it's a very diverse region too. So all the wards are very unique and they have their own very unique characteristics. And so these key initiatives, some emphasis may be on some more than others in other wards. As listed there, we have in the document the planning priorities with a little map. And then at the bottom there, you'll see there's an actions table. At the back of the document there, this actions table really drills down into, I suppose, the nuts and bolts of what actions we think are going to be Central Coast wide, but then also looking at actions that might be specific to a particular ward. Thanks, Mark. Okay, in terms of this, putting this all into a map, and I think that's what this really is here, is that how do we put all the vast array of information spatially about the Central Coast region into one map? It's a big challenge. It's a massive challenge because it's approximately 60 kilometres from the very south to the very north tip of the whole Central Coast. And your ward, the Budgewoi ward, sits right up in the northern tip of the Central Coast Council. So this map here tries to spatially give people a sense of what really is involved with the Central Coast Council in terms of what we think is our spatial plan, where people are located, what are some of the key activities, our environmental, coastal, agricultural lands. For the Budgewoi context, you'll note there that we've named places such as Budgewoi and Lake Mamora, and I'm sure a lot of you are also aware about the recent Lake Mamora structure plan, and it's a very important planning document that's been undertaken by the council, which is trying to look at the future growths and also some of the key challenges that we need to meet to ensure that we adhere to our themes and also our planning priorities. So the spatial plan, putting it onto a map, one of the things that we do find is that unlike a lot of other LGAs, because we're such a very large council, it's sometimes quite challenging to put all the information just on one map. But this map here really also identifies where we think our growth corridors will be. In the case of the Budgewoi area, we do know that through the Lake Mamora structure plan that there has been areas where there's growth, but we also appreciate that there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of very unique characteristics that make up what Budgewoi ward is. So it's looking for that balance of how do we have growth, but where do we have it in the right place at the right time. So this plan here is to give people a bit of a guide. What I'll do now, thanks, Peggy, I'll move over to the next one here. Maladi Lai, the Senior Strategic Planner, is going to move on now to giving you a little bit more detail about those planning priorities. So thanks, Mel.
Thank you, Gary. Good evening, everyone. Before I start, I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we are and pay my respects to elders past, present, and future. So in this section, together with my colleague Rhiannon, we will provide an overview of the key initiatives and priorities. As Margaret mentioned earlier, please think about these carefully, as we will then ask you to vote for the 3 most important ones for your area. Firstly, we'll talk about centres and corridors. The Central Coast consists of an array of local and strategic centres, an emerging city, as well as new communities. In particular, our north and south growth corridors offer great opportunities to build and foster economic development and the livability of these areas. The next priority is housing. In terms of housing, sustainable growth is important for our community. Our growth will occur in existing urban centres and as new communities in our urban release areas. Next slide, please. The third one we're talking about is economics. The Central Coast offers great opportunities to foster and create an economically sustainable region. Facilitating both existing and new enterprises at all scales is essential in providing future jobs for our region. And then a very important area is our natural environment. Our assets like bushland, significant wetlands, coastal lakes and lagoons are highly valued by our community. In future, we will develop sustainable and resilient communities, provide clear direction on climate change, and continue to protect natural areas and ecosystems. Another area of great importance is our agricultural and rural land. They are a key source of food production and supply into the future. To protect these lands, we will identify important agricultural and resource lands, minimize rural residential sprawl support tourism, and protect natural areas and ecosystems. I will now hand over to my colleague and senior planner, Rhiannon. Thank you, Rhiannon.
Thanks, Mel. So I'll be looking at the remainder of the planning priorities, starting with open space. So we have 3 priorities for open space, and these are really about just looking at forward planning based on the needs and expectations of you as the community, and also looking at ways that open space can be used and appreciated by a broader spectrum of users. We also want to make sure that the open space we have is usable for the community. Council is also currently undertaking an active lifestyle strategy that will look in more detail at our open space across the coast. Moving on to community and culture. So priority 1 for this is about, I guess, having a decision-making framework for the planning and delivery of our community facilities, looking at that incoming population, and also looking at how well we're integrating our community facilities with other uses to create good community hubs. Priority 2, this is more talking about ways to open up community facilities to more community groups, and also looking at how the facilities look and function and how they can be improved. And priority 3 looks at having those good cultural spaces where local artists and talent can thrive and share their talents with the broader community. In terms of the heritage planning priorities, this is just about, I guess, conserving the amazing sites that we do have across the coast and getting the community involved in that process as well. Okay, so for transport, the priorities for transport really emphasise good connectivity between centres, acknowledging though that this will be a challenge in some areas due to natural constraints like our lake system and the environmental areas we have, particularly in the north. The state government also has a big stake in our transport system, and they've been engaging with council about their regional transport plan. You should be able to get some more details on that plan from Department of Planning, Industry and Environment. So priorities now for water and sewer, they're really just business as usual priorities. So delivering that important essential infrastructure that's needed for existing and new communities. And last but not least, we have priorities for waste that identify the importance of new and different ways of managing waste into the future. So looking at the idea of a more, I guess, circular economy in this area. If you're not sure what that is, you're not alone. And Council's draft waste strategy is currently on exhibition if you'd like to have more detail on some of the innovative ways that the waste initiatives are being looked at by Council. So that's it, I guess, a very quick overview of the planning priorities. There's 31 in total, so it is a lot to cover in the short amount of time that we have. So I appreciate your patience in trying to get your head around that. But I'll now hand over to Margie for any questions about the initiatives.
All right, thanks, Rhiannon. And look, we deliberately made the presentation fairly tight, I guess, in the interests of not sort of just rattling on to you without actually understanding what it is that you want to learn. Now, we don't have questions sitting in the chat box, which is a good thing, because Councillor Hogan has suggested that maybe you might introduce yourselves, and perhaps we would just, if you do have a question, maybe you could just say who you are and, you know, what your particular area of interest is or locality, and any questions that you might have about the LSPS, and we'll see if we can answer them. So I'll start with you, Ray, and I'm muting you if you'd like to, you've got anything to say.
Oh, yes, I'm Ray Hislop. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, I reside in Gwandolin, but at the moment I'm stopping with my partner on a macadamia plantation west of Byron Bay. I spent a lot of time reading today the summary, and I've got no questions to make at the moment because I'll be putting in a submission. But if the council wants people to read what they write, would they please write simple English? The amount of circumlocution, repetitious, the use of words out of context is just absolutely appalling. And I'm sick to death of this word vibrant. Vibrant means to vibrate. It's got nothing to do with people. And I think it's time everyone in the council who writes reports should look at a dictionary before they start using these words that they don't know the meaning of. They might be the trendy interpretation of them these days, but it is not good communication to write a whole lot of fluff full of words and to talk about transformative. All these words take a lot of time to type out, and they are repeated again and again. The time wasted producing these reports just appalls me. And if this sort of nonsense is going to go on, I'm just glad that I'm 86, 87 and won't have to put up with it for much longer, because it is not a way of communicating.
Thanks, Ray. And
I'm leaving now because I've got my partner's dinner to cook and I'm getting rather hungry, and this is not really a good time to be having a meeting. But I thank the people who have presented things. But I again repeat, why repeat each speaker except for Rhiannon, wasting our time giving their little declaration meaningless mumbo jumbo to the Aborigines?
thanks, Ray. You know that there is actually a session on next week that is in the middle of the day if you wanted to, if this wasn't a good time. So you could go to some of the other sessions if you wanted to.
No, I won't be worried about going to session. I'll be spending my time and effort putting in a written submission saying they've got to be in within a week.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you. And we appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. I'm glad I got Ray's input before he left. Okay, so let's go to you. Is it Sue? So I've lost your name. Is it Sue Wynn? Yeah. Is that right?
You're on.
Am I on now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So I'm speaking. It knocked me off the Zoom and then it was like.
Oh, sorry.
Right, okay. So am I on now? Am I talking? You can hear
Yeah,
me?
you are.
Yes? No?
Yep, you're good. So you're going in and out. Do you want to just turn your video
All right,
on?
so I'm Sue Wynn and I'm in Mannering Park.
Yeah.
Turn my video what? Stop it?
Oh, no, that's
Stop
right. I can
video?
hear you now. Did you have any particular questions?
Stacks.
Okay.
You're really putting this out for comment now. So okay, I'm in Mannering Park. I'm the secretary of Mannering
you want
Park
to just
Progress.
turn your
We live with
video
the power
on?
station at Vast Point Power Station. Right?
Sorry, do you want to just turn your video off?
What do you want me to do?
Just because it might make the quality of your words better. That's all right. Yeah, far away.
Okay, so is that right now? Is that better?
Yeah, terrific, terrific.
Is that any better?
Yeah, it's better. Just far away with your questions.
Yes. All right. Look, I appreciate that you've got all this stuff there and that you've gone through this, but to be honest, if we're going to join these things, we've read all this already. I've read all that, and I absolutely agree with the previous speaker. There's an awful lot of repetition in this. But one of my first and biggest questions is, we're just hit by COVID-19. your opening statements in this are that we have a rising income level and we expect that, and people are spending immediately. We're not in this world anymore now. I mean, if the Prime Minister's up there telling us we've got 5 to 10 years to recover, well, the Central Coast is going to be 5 to 10 years to recover.
I'm sorry, Sue, but we're
Are you talking? Am I talking? What's going on?
We're losing quite a number of your words, so it's not actually coming through. So we're not really hearing, because we're hearing every second or third word. Do you want to put it in the? Do you want to put your question in the chat box, and we'll come back to it, and I'll go to Lynn. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah, sorry, it's just not quality enough for people to pick up. So can I go to you, Lynn, and introduce yourself and questions?
Yes, hi, I'm Lynn Axford, Chain Valley Bay. Sorry, Chain Valley Bay Progress Association, and I live in San Remo. So I'm in the north. I'm in the Budgewoi ward. I can't actually see who I'm talking to. I guess everyone's on. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see
We're
you.
here. We're here.
You may be able to change your view up the top if you might find something that says show grid view. And anyway,
It doesn't show grid view. I looked for that before.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter. I've found you across the bottom. I've got you all across the bottom, but it's not all together. It's just the 4 people. That's fine. I can move across, but it doesn't matter. There's a few things that are worrying me about this. Doesn't cover everything that we're doing, but I agree with Sue. We're in a different situation. I also agree with Ray that this is a bad time. It's dinner time. I've just had to feed my husband. Well, my husband has dementia, so I stay at home all the time. And I have to keep an eye on him, but trying to feed him early so I can be at this meeting was a bit hard. And I know you've all got to eat too, but it's a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Awkward times with
Yeah.
COVID-19 around.
Yeah.
There were lots of things that weren't there that I saw and that I was looking at. It was a bit quick, and I don't know that all the things are covered. I'm a bit like Sue. I'm a bit worried about the ash dam up here on the coast, up north. That worries me. There's no mention of that in any of the plans. We need to know how it's going to be cleaned up and how we can get it. We can work around it because people are going to have to live with it. I'm also concerned about housing. Affordable housing worries me. That means mobile home villages or retirement villages or over 55 villages, whatever you think. They're all different, but they, sorry, there's so many of them up here that we don't need any more because there's no infrastructure. There's no planning. We have all these homes with people over 55. No nursing homes up here for them to go on to. They have to move away from the area. Yeah, there's lots of things that aren't covered in this program that I can see in front of me, and it was all too quick for me. I don't have it in writing, so now I'm going to have to go and look at it all again.
Yeah.
Page by page because I can't. It's a bit quick.
Yeah.
It
is all available on the website, but I appreciate it's just I guess it's hard to know how much or how little to provide through this forum, but yeah. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll go to Meredith. Are you able to speak, Meredith? I'm not trying to get you. Okay, great. Meredith, are you there? Okay, do we know who Meredith is? Anyone? No? Councillor?
She's from, Meredith's from Gondolin. I'll text her.
All right, just as long as we haven't sort of lost her and she's trying to speak, that's all. All right, look, I think that's it in terms of the participants, unless you, Councillor Hogan, would like to say something.
Can't talk and text.
Okay, right.
Can you?
We've still got more time. So
hang on. I'm just saying, hi Meredith, are you there? Okay. She realised she didn't have a camera on her.
That's all right. She doesn't have a camera, but she just, if she wants to speak. Anyway, look, let's go on to the poll, because we still have plenty of time to talk following that. So this, as you see, is the key initiative areas, and that's what Mel and Rhiannon went through those individually. What we are now hoping that you'll do is identify of these key initiative areas, which areas you think are most important for the Budgewoi ward, and then what we're going to do is focus our discussion around that. So I'm going to launch a poll. Do we have somebody else trying to get in there, Emma? Did we find someone? I just heard a beep. Can you see someone? Ah, yep, we've got someone new. Who's Tuck? K-Tuck? No, no one knows. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch this poll, and we'll say hello to the person as we're doing it.
That's Karen, Margaret.
Oh, is it? Okay, great. So you'll see that that here there are 11 areas. Unfortunately, we worked out today that Zoom will only allow us to put up 10 multiple choice areas. So you'll see that water and sewer and waste that's right down the bottom is actually 2 different areas, but we've combined them. What we're asking you to do is to just take some time to think and to vote on the 3 areas that you think need the most attention for the Budgewoi ward. So what I want you to do is just to multiple choice 3 different selections. And this is just to focus our discussion really from here in terms of the kinds of things that we think need to happen. So in other words, if you're really concerned about, you know, affordable housing, or, you know, whatever it is, you'd put that as one of the areas. And we should be looking for 5 people to respond, I think. So got 2 so far. So I guess we're not really sure. We've got at least 3 people have responded so far. I guess we're not really sure whether Meredith has access or not.
Meredith has come through in the text box, so we might we can jump to her question once we've
great.
done this
Okay.
poll.
And Sue has put her question in there, so we'll have a look at that. Okay, sorry. So Meredith can obviously hear us. I'm sorry, Meredith, that you can't perhaps speak, or you don't have a microphone. So. Oh, somebody can't see. Oh, so sorry, Lynn. You can't see the poll?
I can see a Zoom poll and a focus discussion. But where do I put the top 3 initiatives? Where are they? Where do I fill them in?
You should be able to see initiative areas, and you should be able to use your cursor to click the 3 areas.
I think she can't see the pop-up box.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
You can, you're seeing initiative area. Oh.
Seeing the backslide, not the pop-up.
You're not seeing a pop-up that has different things?
No, nothing at all. I'm touching everywhere on the screen and there's nothing popping anywhere.
If you click on, so if you hover down the bottom, there is a section that says polls. So you'll see participants and then polls. It's 3 little rectangles, like a graph type scenario. If you click on that, it should open it up for you. Can you see that navigation bar at the bottom?
My navigation bars. Oh no, there's nothing there, darling. Sorry, I must be.
So we can do it for you manually.
Oh,
so,
sorry, I've got it. I just
got it.
Right. At the top, it said something else. It said poll in progress. I couldn't see it. Sorry.
That's okay. We're all learning.
That's right. I'll just give you some time to put in your work there, and then. So you able to do that, Linda? Have you? Can't. I'm having trouble.
Sorry. Yes, yeah. I've done it, so I can do that now. I've got to submit it. Sorry, I didn't see the bottom part. Okay, yeah. Let me go do it again. Sorry, my apologies. Centers and corridors now.
Yeah, so you have to submit. That's right.
Yeah, just 3. They're all important.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you submitted?
Just done it, yes.
Right, great. Okay, I will end it now. Is that okay? Everyone ready for me to end it? And then I'll share the results. So we have environment as the highest.
Yes.
Followed by, well, followed by all of those ones. So, yeah. So anyway, look, what I wanted to do now is have a discussion about the environment area and just what it is around that area that you think is particularly crucial for the Budgewoi area. But I'm just wondering whether, in fact, we might go to the stuff in the chat box first, if that is okay. So I think Sue contributed her question, or is it a question, or from reading of the report, it says that people wanted the Watervale Airport. However, given there were a total of 30 responses and 22 comments out of 342,000 people in the local area, less than 1/7,000%, hardly a representative sample say we want the Watervale. Is it we won't or we want?
We don't want it.
Don't want, oh, okay. Want the Wyong Economic Zone for manufacturing jobs on that site. So we'll take that as a comment, I think. Yeah. And then we've got another one. There are already 5 manufactured housing sites over 5 kilometres from Doyleson to Lake Memora, yet Central Coast has sent 2 projects that, sorry, it keeps on moving, has sent 2 projects that amount to spot rezones to the gateway process for another 2 manufactured housing estates, one on E3 land and the other Doyleson RSL. How do these work with the LSPS? Too many in one area with no public transport. So again, I'll take that as a comment, and then...
Well, you can take it as a... I'd really prefer you not to take these as comments, because the way you have designed this LSPS and what you're saying about growth and strategies, you have not addressed, even in a high level document, where you're looking at this sort of stuff. And yet you're going ahead in the meantime, making these decisions at the council level and at the state level that are now going to impinge on, because that one of those on that E3 land is actually going to impinge on whatever the size of the corridor is that can go into the east-west corridor into the Lake Munmora Drought Structure Plan. So I'm saying this is very flawed process, very flawed. At that high level, I don't think there's enough work being done for up in the Budgewoi board, looking at all of the strategic land and its purposes, and then rolling that into this high level document to say, all you've got is growth corridor, it's all about economic, it's all about town. Lynn can tell you for a start, but we don't rezone those places. Like there's holes all over this document at that high strategic level is what I'm saying. I'm not saying down at the nitty gritty, but at the high strategic level, in there for about the agricultural land. You're saying about keeping it, but are you keeping it to assist us with climate change and sustainability, and you're developing a peri-urban map so that we'll get our local food production nearby? I mean, that surely should be at this high strategic level. Surely should that. So instead of all of the repetition of all the vibrancies and the community centres, and we want to be vibrant and open space, blah, 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 maybe some of that sort of stuff should have been detailed in this. And I'll tell you one of the things I'm very, very worried about, and that's the open space. Your open space reads to me like you want to get rid of every pocket park, every small bit of greenery across, and then have just these regional and bigger areas that everybody can use everything. And yet, out of this COVID-19, people have come to find that one of the biggest things they need is green space and open areas where they can just sit in a little pocket park. It doesn't have to have 5,000 uses. But you know, those pocket parks are so important for people in local communities. So there's, you know, and if you're looking at that at that high strategic level, then what are you going to bring that down to at our level? Because when you look north, you've got nothing in here for up here. You talk about transport, there's no way we're going to get transport, the public transport that you look, and yet you're putting this massive housing development up here. You talk about addressing climate change, well, how do you marry those two together? Anyway, you can tell I'm a bit frustrated about it all. And yes, I had a very good read of this document. And the more I read about it, sorry, the angrier I got. Because if you're saying here, then why haven't you written in there? So therefore, when we do our housing, we have to look about putting them around so they focus on out to the outside, or they've got to be solar passive, or we need them to be all insulated, or we want them to all have solar, so that we actually know that we're cutting our carbon footprint. Because every time you cut down all those trees, which, you know, you say, oh, the nature is very important, yet you take trees out everywhere all the time. And you're taking these developments, they're clear felt. There's just nothing in there about urban design. You know, I just think, and what I didn't understand was, you start Gosford as the city centre and the big part, you know, that's an hour away from us, right down the other end. The centre of this is Arimba, isn't it? So how do you think people in the north feel part of Central Coast Council?
So I'm gonna flip to Gary, and there's a lot of questions in there, Sue.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right. But I think importantly, I suppose when I say I'm going to flip to Gary, I think your stuff about how the document sort of comes together and the strategic sort of the document is what Gary can address more than the actual sort of what you're talking about is the outcomes that come from the document. But I appreciate what you're saying is that the document sets that. So Gary, can you kind of speak to that part of it at least?
Okay. Hi Sue, we've met before. times in the past there, so we've worked together before. So in terms of, as I said before at the beginning, I suppose with our LSPS is that because it's such a large region, one of the challenges that we did have was trying to have a document that was not too wordy, and I do appreciate that we've still ended up with quite a large document that was concise enough to give enough information, but yet gave enough detail. I've looked at many LSPSs from many other councils, and yes, ours is quite a large document, but I do also appreciate that people in different wards will say, well, there's not enough detail given about our ward because of the unique challenges that it faces. So definitely not hiding from the fact that the Budgewoi ward has very unique and difficult challenges ahead. It's a very unique area. The environmental corridors there are very paramount. What I've put in the chat table is I just said that the actions table that I just spoke about in the presentation, I believe will at least give you more detail about what planning work will be done to help support some of those planning priorities. So you'll tend to find, if you spend some time going through the table at part B of the document, it will give you, hopefully, some more guidance about, well, a bit more the how, like how are you going to do it? How are you going to address this? So I think if I can be corrected that you spoke about urban design, about sustainability of housing, about our new housing estates, how they're going to be developed. So all I can say, Sue, is I think if you go through the table, hopefully it might give you some more direction about that. But I do appreciate that this is a very passionate opinion from many people about the growth and about allocation of services and resources in that area. And it's one of the challenges that's facing all new, not all new releases, but many new release areas that are located north and south of areas. So I would encourage you to go have a look at those actions table. And then I know so that you'll put a submission in and hopefully that we can address some of your concerns that way.
Do you know how many submissions I've put in over the years?
Quite a few. Quite a few.
So look, I'll just go back to the fact that we're really looking at, I guess, you know, what are the, I suppose what we're hoping in this session is to unpack some of the things, and we've started that obviously, you know, so you've contributed some of those things in relation to the environment. But are there other things that other people, you know, that being the highest rating, and most people obviously put environment, what is it that is a particular concern that you'd like to be addressed? Lynn, did you have anything that you'd like to tell us?
Talking about the environment, the biggest environmental hazard that we've got in the Shire is the ash dams at Lake Munmora. Sorry, on the northern end. It's not Lake Munmora, it's between Doyleson North, I guess. It's just, it's not covered anywhere. There's no
reference to
what they're doing. I don't know what they're going to put. Are they going to put 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 homes on top of this ash dam to cover it up? There's no mention of it anywhere in the plans. And we need to look at it. It's, you know, do people really know that there's an ash dam there? Of course they don't. They don't see it. And we all know it's there. I'm just very, very concerned about that. What's going to happen?
So your concern is about housing development near the ash dam?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing at Doyleson. The Doyleson plan is to have an ash dam right next door to all this new housing they want to put in. And I'm just concerned about that. There's lots more that I'm concerned about. That's one of the main things for me.
Well, given there's no money in the budget in the state government and they haven't held the owners to account, it's going to be $500 million that you'll need to do it. So, you know, we can't even get a few million to fix up Tuggerah Lake system. So
that's right. I
Is that
agree.
Councillor Hogan?
Sorry?
Hogan, did you have a question that you? Sorry, I'm just going through the chat box.
I just wanted to welcome Meredith. We can see you now, which is very nice. Oh, we can't hear you, but we can see you. And we have Ruth joined us So,
I forgot it was on.
oh, no, welcome. And look, if you wanted to catch the first part of it, you could attend one of the sessions next week to sort of catch the presentation.
Yeah, I put down for Wyong as well.
Yeah, so where we are, you'll see on the screen, if you can see the screen, there's poll results.
Yeah.
So what we did was we went through 11 initiative areas and discussion about that, and then these are the results of voting, and people just identified what were the key areas that they were most concerned about, the areas for the Budgewoi area. So that's what that's about, and so a key focus is an environment, and we've had
good.
Some contributions from that, and Sue and Lynn have spoken to that and some of their concerns about the environment and particular housing development, and we've had some discussion around infrastructure and things that are associated with that. Now, Meredith, you couldn't speak before, and I don't know whether you can speak now. Can you? No, she's now looking frozen. I will now go to Councillor Hogan. Did you have anything that you wanted to say?
Thanks, Margaret. Thanks, Gary. Yeah, I was just questioning, why wasn't roads and infrastructure on the priority list? The biggest thing that everyone always talks about here is our roads and our curb and guttering, and when are we getting them?
That'd be under transport. I mean, transport's a fairly holistic and can cover quite a lot of things, councillors. And I suppose that's when you look at a lot of those priorities, that there's 11 of them, but they cover quite a lot within them too. So the transport part would cover public transport, but also roads, drainage, footpaths, cycleways, shared pathways. I mean, I know that up in the Budgewoi area, connectivity is it's a big issue. It's a huge issue, especially when you've got the settlement pattern up there, councillor, is you've got a lot of communities. They're dispersed. Some are on the lake, some are a little bit inland, and one of the big issues that brings up is often about connectivity in terms of whether it's cycle paths. Even for a lot of people, footpaths is a critical issue. Other people might look at the bigger picture too, council. They may look at, for example, they might be looking at more in terms of public transport in the area might be the huge issue. So I would envisage involve the resident that public transport, the ability to get to services, especially if you're less able or you do rely on public transport, appreciating that not everyone has a car. So we're not saying that's not an issue. Believe me, we understand quite clearly that there are a lot of challenges up in this ward. That's we're not hiding from that fact. So that's where the roads will come in under transport.
Okay, I'll have to have a closer look at that. But I just wanted to make comment on what Sue was saying and Lynn around the ash dam. Now that's been a problem for many, many years. Council's sort of, to my knowledge, they've opted out of that debate about it, and the community has been lumbered with it, basically. There's still lots of inquiries going on about whether it causes cancer and cancer clusters. And there's a genuine and a real concern up in the north of what that's doing, not just to themselves and their children and their grandchildren, but also to the environment. In terms of what Sue's saying about the green corridors, in the 2.5 years I've seen that right through council, especially up our way. And if we look at this LSPS for what it is, when you break down in the Budgewoi ward, what we're seeing is housing, manufactured homes, and that was the only priority area. There wasn't anywhere else, from what I've read, besides our ward. And, I'm a great advocate for affordable housing. I believe in it and I champion that through council. However, we cannot have clusters of affordable housing, in particular in the Lake Memorial area, when we don't have the infrastructure around that. What you're saying, we don't have the footpaths, the connectivity is not there, the transport isn't there, there's no hospitals. I think there's one doctor. It's just not there. So this forward planning the infrastructure has to come before, the cart's got to come before the horse this time, because I think we're going to get some really massive backlash in the new manufacturing homes. And Sue, I think there might be 2 up at Chain Valley Bay actually that have asked for gateway decisions. So yeah, we're always known as a unique environment, but and as Sue said, we're getting our little stuff, but we're not getting the big infrastructure that we need. Yeah.
The big delivery. Can I just ask a bit? So, Councillor, if you don't mind, you just asking the question about the ash dam, and just I'm not an expert in that area, and it's only been recently come to my attention about the ash dam. As you appreciate, knowing everything about it goes on, everything the Central Coast is.
No, you're not going to. No.
You're not going to. But that seems to be, I don't know, Margaret. From the discussions we're having here on the forum, is that this seems to be, from what I can gather, that's probably the #1 environment issue, or just from the discussion here, it seems to have a very strong resignation with people in terms of, a desire to see something happen.
Yeah.
Would that be right?
That's your structure plan.
I'd like Sue and Lynn to answer that, Gary, but yes, I would say so.
Okay. You happy to?
So are you still there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, the ash dam is a huge issue, and the issue with it is that it is completely unfunded for any rehabilitation. That's the big issue. Okay. The government, when they sold the power station to private concerns to operate, limited their liability to 10 million. We know from Hazelwood it's between 300 and 500 million to clean up these sites. We've had, and the EPA says they're not responsible. So we have a legacy issue up here that has leachate into Lake Macquarie that is covering, I forget how many square kilometres, but it is poison, toxic poison. And it is opposite Dawson RSL and goes all the way to the railway station. So we need the state government in this LSPS to have a plan to we residents in Budgewoi ward for the proper rehabilitation of the ash dam. That would be #1 priority. Your second priority is to actually know what size and where you have the east-west connectivity corridor before you do any more planning on the Greater Northern Lake Munmora structure plan, because you don't even know that. And one of the sites you've got up and put up to the gateway impinges on that, where you want to put 200 manufactured homes, and you're going to say, oh, right next door, we're going to have an east-west corridor for the animals. Now, I think that is to me, abhorrent. And I cannot see how it meets the federal government and the state government's environment planning laws, which you're supposed to meet under the Environmental Protection Act. So that's when I say this document is lacking. That's the strategical level it's lacking in. And yes, you should have looked to see how many manufactured homes were up there and how many more were being planned. Because I'm sorry, we don't want to be the manufactured home estates. But, where else are they around the coast? Got them in Terrigal? Warrnambool? Why don't we have a few around in other places? And your density of living. The other thing I was really disappointed in this LSPS was leave Toukley as a little hamlet. Why aren't you doing medium density along that corridor and making that a corridor straight down to Warner Vale Station? There are opportunities in here where you could actually do really good and sensitive development that would actually attract a lot of people. And to me, this is up north. You'll get 450 square metres, clear fell. We'll stuff the corridor up, and there's no shared pathways or connectivity, and you'll have 1,500 odd in mobile manufactured homes, and Dawson RSL will be your life. Thank you. I think you should have done ward by ward and done the whole planning of a ward, because each ward, as you say, is unique, and you could still have had Gosford City Centre and how you were going to plan all that, and that could have been there. But I think you need to have much more specific for your wards, because our shared pathway in Mannering Park is 1.5 kilometres long. That's it. Okay, I can ride from San Remo now to halfway down Wilfred Barrett Drive. I can ride about 30 k's. I can't get any further than other than that. Then I come out into Rutley Road and then the highway. And don't let me start on the weeds that you don't address either, because I've done a lot of riding around, and man, there are some weeds that need being taken out too. But anyway, I would say they were the two main things that I feel, and I'm not saying I'm speaking for everyone in the community. I'm sure other people have other ideas, but they are things that I'm very passionate about.
Thank you, Sue. I'm just going to check in with Meredith if you had anything to say or whether you're able to speak, or I think your microphone issues maybe. No, and Ruth, look, I know you came in later, but did you have anything that you would like to add?
Not really at the moment. I haven't had much time to put a bit of thought into this, but I thought I'd just check in to see what's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
Welcome, Ruth.
Hello, Gillian.
Hi, can I say something? It's Meredith here.
Oh yes, sorry. We've been trying to get you to connect. That's great.
I've gone from computer to tablet now to mobile.
Wonderful.
Working beautifully. Gwendolyn and Summerland Point are pretty well in the same boat as Chain Valley and Mannering Park. We've only got one road in, Canangara Drive. When we had the fires in 2015, we were cut off bar access from the lake. No pathways in Gwendolyn. I had a resident speak to me today who's a blind lady, and she is very concerned that she cannot walk along the Heritage Walkway up down to Gwendolyn, because she does that as part of her exercise. Another guy by the name of Peter, who's on a mobility scooter, actually has to ride on the road to get around in Gwendolyn, because there are literally no footpaths in Gwendolyn, as Councillor Hogan will verify.
That's correct. Nothing.
That's absolutely appalling. And I mean, the problem is, in so many ways, our area, which seems to be the forgotten portion of the Central Coast Council, is we've got a lot of elderly people here now because it is a really lovely spot to retire to, but there are things that our community desperately needs, and it seems to be ignored. We're getting huge new housing estates built. We're getting another 440 properties built along Canangara Drive in Crangan Bay, and yet there's no upgrade to the sewage system, the sewage plant there. And we've already had a leaking tank, which was very choice, for about a week. The stench was just appalling. You know, there just doesn't seem to be anything about resolving infrastructure, yet they happily keep on building houses. Have I lost you?
No, I can hear you. I just, yeah, so you're looking for that to be reflected in the plan, the need for infrastructure and things to support. So yeah, I mean, look, I think if I can sort of, I guess, sort of summarize, a lot of this discussion seems to be around obviously new development, and you know, inappropriate, perhaps potentially inappropriate development in relation to environmental issues and in relation to other infrastructure that might support it. Is that a reasonable sort of kind of summary of where some of the...
Yes.
And so I'm wondering if there's others who want to say stuff, or whether we move on to sort of talk about the next steps. I know this is obviously not the end of the process, because all we're trying to do, I'll sort of reiterate, is achieve through this is just give you a bit of a summary and an overview of how the LSPS sits in terms of the planning system, and get some kind of input to it. But I guess, as people have identified, you're putting in submissions, and I guess the primary goal is to get your detailed feedback through this, through that process. are you ready to just move on and we'll talk about sort of the next steps and then we can open it up for discussion after that? Or does somebody have something else to say now?
No,
Yeah, sorry.
no, someone else. Who was that? Who else was speaking?
I went to speak, but I thought someone else was speaking.
Oh, that was me, Sue. That's okay. You may speak.
Well, just one other thing was, like, I really don't see where Central Coast Council emphasises the Lake Macquarie. It is the beautiful lake, and it is right for tourism. And yet it doesn't seem to figure either. You know, you don't see reference to that sort of work in documents either. In fact, Lake Macquarie doesn't get mentioned, and I just wanted to let you all know that Lake Macquarie City Council considers this area of the Budgewoi ward mostly bush and open space, and I don't even know that it's aware of the Greater Munmora Structure Plan, because it's going to have huge impacts on the water quality of Lake Macquarie. And in its sharing, it's got a thing called sharing Lake Macquarie or something or other. It doesn't even mention it. So I don't know that there's much conversation between councils, and I think that's a high admission at a high level too, and that should be in the strategic plan as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And can I just make further comment to that with what Sue said? And most of the people here, yeah, do live on Lake Macquarie, except for Ruth and Lynn and I. However, around the Budgewoi Lake, we have massive problems with flooding, and we've all heard about what happened at the entrance and, you know, what council did and didn't do. But the Budgewoi Lake / lagoon did flood, and it was over 2,000 houses were flooded. If we don't make reference to this, this is probably the, you know, equally to the ash dam in terms of community angst. And even recently with the rains, there's houses flooding as well. So
what about the new development areas? Are they subject to flooding?
Yes, significant, and they will make other areas.
Depends on the drainage, really.
It also depends on the sea, you know.
That Greater Munmora Structure Plan will affect flooding in both Lake Munmora and probably Lake Macquarie, and it's a huge area because most of that is wetland and swamp area that's right, be turned into housing. And no, I don't think the detention and retention basins work to that degree. I think you will find that the water quality will suffer, and you will have more problems with drainage and flooding, etc.
Absolutely. And that's the major cause of our flooding is our urbanisation. So
yeah, you can't get all that water going in and it can't get out.
That's correct. Yep.
So there needs to be more high level thinking about it.
So are you ready to move on, and then we can come back if we've got time at the end? Can I get Gary to just give the last couple of slides, and then we can come back and see if there's anything else? Is that okay?
Okay.
So I'll hand to you, Gary.
No worries.
Stop.
Thanks, Margaret.
Hang on, I've got to. I've got to stop sharing the poll here, don't I?
You're right. Okay.
Let me just stop sharing it. That's all right.
You're right.
I'm good.
Yep. You're good to go. Okay, just for the next, just for the consultation, next steps. So, just the next slide, Margaret. Yeah. So basically, where we are at the moment, we're on exhibition. We've tried to look at as many different ways of getting across the information that's in the OSPS. There's a PowerPoint, pre-recorded PowerPoint presentation that breaks it up into chunks. We've got our frequently asked questions. We have a local character survey, which is quite important, which I'll talk about in a moment. The online video presentation, a submission portal, and an online forum. So that allows people to just a bit of dialogue about these ongoing issues. So for a bit like tonight, where people are raising issues, for example, the ash dams, a very important question. And also is about the east-west environmental corridors, is one that's coming up, infrastructure, housing development and all forms and shapes, if I can say that. So that's under the Your Voice, Our Coast. Then we have other mediums, so through social media, our local newspapers, and also on radio. So they're now on the radio, it's been on several stations trying to get the message across. So how will the feedback be used on these sessions for the LSPS? So just the feedback from Your Voice, Our Coast website will be used to make changes to the final LSPS. So after this, there will be a period of time where we'll have to go through the submissions, and has been reiterated tonight, but it's important that people put in written submissions. We also look at the feedback we got from tonight, so the information that we're gathering through the 5 webinars that we're doing, one for each of the wards. And then thirdly, on the website, there's also a survey about local character. And this is an issue here. So the feedback from the local character will be important, because one of the actions that we've got in the actions table is to look at, when we get the LSPS through, is that we'll then start to look at doing a project where we start to look at the local character in some of the ward areas. So that some have been done already in the south, but we need to look at the north. So the issue about local character and basically some of the key attributes of local areas. So I would encourage you to look at that survey and to fill out that survey. And as it says there, the feedback will be used in character assessment work, which is an action already identified in the LSPS. So that's where we are there. Thanks, Margaret. And then have your say, but it's quite important that to qualify for a submission, this is important. Put it in writing by email or letter. Be submitted within the nominated exhibition period. Make sure you reference that it is the LSPS that you're putting a submission in for. Based on good planning grounds. So the issues that are raised tonight, this has been a lot of planning talk, and this has been good because people are getting in, even though they might be very passionate and concerned, but we are talking about planning issues. So that's a good thing to see. And then also about contact details about the author of the submission. Okay, and that's our website there.
And so I'll just emphasise that the public exhibition period closes on the 8th of June, and so that is the time that you need to have your submissions in, and so we encourage you to do submissions, and it sounds like most of you are going to, which is great. The consultation report will be uploaded then to Your Voice, Our Coast page, and as a result of that consultation, there'll be changes to the local strategic planning statement document in response to that feedback. And so what council officers do is bring that feedback together and then put that report in terms of the outcomes of the consultation and the changes to the council, who then adopts the final LSPS. So that's how the process goes from here. Is there any questions about that in terms of next steps and what you should do now?
Yes, I have one. It says it's got to be in by the 8th of June. But when are the other meetings that we can drop in on?
Oh, great, good question. Thank you. I meant to say that. Okay, so there's next Tuesday. There's one at 1 o'clock, and again at 6 o'clock. And next Thursday there's one at 1 o'clock, and again at 6 o'clock. So they are exactly the same format as if. The difference is that they will focus in on the different ward areas. So it's covering 5 different ward areas. So then the questions and the discussion will focus on the issues for that area in the same way as they have during this particular forum, where we've talked about things that are unique to Budgewoi.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to thank Councillor Hogan for actually being on this forum. It's really good to see a councillor
It is.
on, so that she's getting from we in the community. So thanks, Julian. Appreciate it.
Yes, I support that comment as well. Thank you very much, Gillian.
I support it too. Thank you, Gillian.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. My apologies for the short notice today. I actually wasn't aware of this until Monday, and then this morning I thought, geez, well, how does the community know? And this is what always happens, is that I often say the councillors are the last to know, but the community's, the very last to know. So I don't know how that you would have got this information. And I'm so glad that you turned up, and as I said, short notice. Every single one of you is from an email that I sent today. So it just worries me that the broader community have not been involved in this for whatever reason, or haven't seen that this is actually happening. However, I think we've got a really good cross-section of the community in the north, and I was really pleased to see the poll was actually reading what I hoped it to read, which was the environment and what was the other one? Corridors, transport and waste. I was really pleased to see waste, because waste up our area is a mess. It's a mess. Yeah,
Well,
it is
it's a mess. Most of it ends up in the bush.
Well, that's right. But I think the other thing that's come out of this, and I won't take up your time, Margaret, is that the great thing that's come out of COVID, I know for me, is it's allowed us to get together much more easily and more efficiently and closer than we could ever get together before by going to 100 different meetings. So I'll have a chat with you offline and see if we can keep the conversation going around the LSPS, and so get some more input. But thank you for your input, and I'm really, really pleased that you brought up the ash dam, because it has been shoved to the side.
Thank you.
And yeah, please, if you know of people and you want to keep publicising about the sessions next week, yeah, I mean, it's been great to have, albeit a small number, but at least it allows everyone the chance to speak. And I guess, we didn't want to run this, we wanted to run it like a meeting, like something where you had the opportunity to speak, not as a sort of static webinar. So, we've been able to get that input, which I think is great. So.
Could I just say one thing? There's a comment about relying upon the media as in newspapers. We do not get the newspaper in Gwandal and Summerlin Point. There's only one place it gets it, and that's the Metro petrol station at Gwandalin. You've actually got to go down to Macca's at Lakehaven or Lakehaven Shopping Centre to pick up the paper. So do not rely on the paper as a means of communicating.
I don't know if you want to talk to that, Rose, but I think we're all finding, in this time that I think there's every locality around the city that there's no newspapers left. So I don't know whether, Rose, you want to talk?
Yeah, it's certainly difficult, and we do try and spread the word out as much as we can. We've had social media advertising, radio advertising, newspaper advertising everywhere, because it is a region-wide document. And we've also had our Coast Connect emails go out. So we are doing the best we can to get the word out there. But like everything, everyone's been thrown a million ads a day, and it's really hard to cut through. So, which is why we encourage you all to share with your networks and get people that are interested involved, because we are absolutely trying our best, but there's nothing better than the grassroots approach and that phone tree networking that happens amongst our community.
Well, we
quite right, Rose, quite right.
Yeah.
I sent out things, Gillian, too, and with my group that over there at the Toukley, they're all a bit, some of them, Ernest, who would have loved to have given his input on waste. He thinks it's some kind of conspiracy, this Zoom, so he
There's a few of those around.
Yeah, not so much this time, but for another Zoom meeting I went to, he was interested, but he was trying to do it all the way around without actually having to be on Zoom.
Yeah, I love it.
And somebody else tried to get on and said he had trouble. I need to speak to him because he was thinking he couldn't remember his login to Zoom. And I said, well, you don't have to be logged into Zoom if you're just visiting the meeting. So
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
of
And
training.
it's understanding that, yeah.
Yes.
Can I just make a point too? Gillian, I got your email, but I'd already done, because I'd got it from going to the Greater Memorial Stroke Name, so they come out, you know, ask for a ticket. They gave me the name Terry McClellan, so it wasn't my name.
Oh,
that's.
Hello, Terry.
I had to keep taking his name. So I just wondered if there's, I don't know if anyone else had any issues like that, but I was just letting you know, like, I don't know what the story is, but I'm
So
not Terry McClellan, okay?
Did you pick up on that road? So there might be some checking how the
Is that when you registered on Eventbrite?
Email address, obviously.
Sorry, I missed that.
It obviously links him to my email address.
Oh, okay.
Well,
but that could be in the settings of Eventbrite where you've gone to register to attend.
Okay, so you need to talk to Eventbrite.
Yeah. Could just be something in the cache settings in the back end.
We're at the end of our meeting, so I want to thank you very much for attending. We really do appreciate it, and what we will appreciate even more is you making a submission to the local strategic planning statement document. As tedious as I know that making submissions might be at times, please do it, because it's the only way that council gets your voice and understands what you've what you're saying. So thank you very much, everyone, and I'm going to end the meeting.
Thank you, Margaret.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.